Hi everyone. Have you ever felt that you were in the wrong job? So even if on paper your job looked great and people told you you're good at math or you're good at accounting or whatever it might be, and you feel, well, that's the direction I should be going, or in your family there's traditions, we are a family of lawyers or doctors or whatever it might be, and you feel that you want to follow this, maybe you study for it, but it feels wrong. It doesn't feel like you are living your full self. And so what I want to talk about today is that I want to look at the chart ruler, which is basically the ascendant sign ruler. So basically the ascendant sign is representing yourself, your body. It's a sign that was rising on the horizon when you were born. So it kind of gives you that imprint, that energy, that quality where everything else in your chart will have to go through that gate, if you like, to express itself through the ascending sign. So it really embodies who you are and the energies that you represent as a natural instinct for how you go about your life. And here we can look at especially the four elements. So if you have an ascending sign that is a fire sign, so Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius, you might have that outgoing energy, need to do something active, to explore, to be very much embodying your own self with what you're doing in a physical way, and stand up and be seen, and so on and so on. And if you are Earth, that's Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn, as your ruling sign, you might have more leaning towards something more earthy, something more creative, where you create something with your hands or something tangible people can feel, see, taste. If you have an air sign on your ascending sign, like Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius, you might really be leaning towards communication and connecting, the kind of dynamics, one-on-one partnership, consultancy, and so on. And finally, if you have a water sign on your ascending sign, that would be Cancer, it'd be Capricorn, it'd be Pisces. So you're leading very much with something that is touching you emotionally, and something that gives you meaning in terms of how you relate to other people. It's very hard to separate the inner emotional need for connection and understanding with what you're actually doing. So even though your chart ruler, as it is, will not describe always your exact job, sometimes it does, but it will say something about the energy that your soul is embodying. So if you take your ascending sign and you look at the energy that it represents according to the elements as described, and you look at the ruling planet of that ascending sign. So if you have Aries on your ascending sign, then you look, where is Mars in your chart, in which house, especially which house and which sign. And if you are Taurus rising, you look for Venus. Where is Venus in your chart? What house, what sign, and so on. If you're Gemini, you look for Mercury. If you're Cancer rising, you look for the moon. If you're Leo, you look where the sun is. And if you are Virgo, you look for Mercury again. It's a different kind of Mercury expression than the Gemini, because one is air, one is earth. So it's different. The Virgo is more doing practical things, especially with the hands, creating something with the hands. They're very good at that. And Gemini is more about communication and connecting with others on a verbal kind of way. So after that is Libra. That's also ruled by Venus. Again, different kind of Venus expression than the Taurus sign. Taurus is earthy expression of Venus, and Libra is more an airy way. So here you have, for example, typical people doing consultancy work, a one-on-one, or I've seen lawyers, somebody who has to embody seeing their sides from several angles. Mediators, and so on and so on. Next sign is Scorpio, and here we have a double rulership. I'm looking at the traditional ruler first, and that is Mars. It's different. There is, of course, the modern ruler, which is Pluto, but that moves so slowly through your chart that a whole generation will have that same Pluto in that sign. So if you want to look at your second ruler, which I do, but I don't give it as much weight as the first ruler, which is always going to be a personal planet. So it is more personal to you. But if you look at Pluto, I will definitely see what house it's in, and also especially if it's making any aspects to your personal planets, then you really take notice. After Scorpio, we have Sagittarius, that is ruled by Jupiter. And then we have Capricorn, that's ruled by Saturn. And Aquarius, if you have Aquarius on your ascending sign, then you look at Saturn, the traditional ruler, and you look at the modern ruler as Uranus. Again, it's a slow-moving outer planet, so I don't give it as much weight as the Saturn, but you can definitely look and see which house it's in, and also any aspects it makes to your personal planets. And finally, we got Pisces. The traditional ruler is Jupiter, and the modern ruler is Neptune. So this gives you a little overview, and if you have your chart, I will go and take a look and see what's going on. Let's just go through some of the embodiments of the house placements for how you could find your core joy, what really feels like a natural direction for you to in life. And it might be very unconscious, but when you look at the choices you're making, or the choices you want to make, or what you feel compelled to do, it might very likely have something to do with the ascending ruler. So even though we are, of course, traditionally we also looked at the 6th house, which is your day-to-day work routine, and we also look normally at the 10th house and where the MC is placed. And if you use, for example, whole sign house system like I do, you might have the MC in one house and you might have the 10th house separate. But that's another story. That's also very important when you're looking at your career, where you want to be going, what you'll be good at, what your talents are, what your natural inclination would be towards. But I want to make it simpler today. I just want to focus on the ascending sign ruler, because that planet and where it's placed, in which house, it will definitely give you some information and some clues about if you are in the wrong job, if you feel that I'm not using things that give me joy. I mean, we can all have that feeling. You have a day job and it's great and you're happy and you're grateful for it, but it's not really who you are. You know, it's something you do to make a living and you might enjoy it, but there's something missing. Sometimes what people do is in alignment with a great life purpose. Sometimes people's life purpose is something they do for charity, or they do it privately. They do have one job, for example, and then they do painting on the side for their own joy. And that will be typically where you can find your chart's ruler placed, maybe in a creative expression, maybe in the 5th house, for example. So these are like things to take into account as well, that sometimes the day job we do to earn money is not the same as our life purpose and direction, and what the chart ruler is doing might be separate or it might be the same. If we're lucky, we have all these components aligned together, and so we're really doing what we are meant to do and what we love doing. So let's just run through quickly the houses. So if you have your chart ruler in the 1st house, that really embodies who you are. Sometimes you see that with actors. So they're using their body to play a role, to go out there and be seen and express a different character, but with their own body. So it filters through themselves. So we can see performers, sometimes stand-up comedians, Very often some sort of leadership is implied, that somebody just feel that I want to go first, I want to take the lead, and that will feel a natural thing for them to do. And for some people, taking leadership, it's not natural. They'd rather be thinking in the terms of a team. But people with their chart ruler in the first house have more tendency to go first, to be the rule breaker sometimes. If it's fashion, you might come up with something completely new and fresh, for example, just to give one idea. If you have in the second house is concerned with how we build our confidence and what gives meaning to us in terms of how we validate ourselves. And very often that is seen through our talents, what we are good at. So you might want to, be going towards the direction where you build up your own self-confidence, maybe with skills, or you get into a business where you're supporting others to find their skills, their talents, and you support that. That could be like a second house, including also creating wealth and money. So that is also something that is ruled by the second house. If we take the third house, if your ascending sign ruler is in the third house, you would be inclined to want to do something with communication, something with learning, maybe teaching, or where you write articles of topics that really has your interest, where you put different components together and you put a completely different output that is yours. So you might also be involved with local businesses, maybe something to do with travel as well. And these might be things that you feel really happy doing, whether you do it in your day job, or if you're able to do it as your big passion and your life direction, as well as your day job. So it's all rolled into one. If you have your ascendant chart ruler in the fourth house, your natural instinct will be towards family and home and security around home and family. So, I've seen people get into real estate or home design or decoration, or something to do with working with families, family therapist, or taking care of children, or being just very involved with anything that has to do with your ancestors, your heritage, and so on. If you have the ascendant sign ruler in the fifth house, you might also have a focus on children, but in a different way. You might be a teacher with children or taking care of younger children, but more in a, for example, after school program where you are doing creative things with them. You might yourself feel that your inner child is very important to nurture it and be involved with fun things. Maybe you do theater, not necessarily professionally, but in your free time. And this is where you really feel I am expressing the most authentic part of myself. If you go on to, if you have your chart ruler in the sixth house, then you might be inclined to, this is typically a sign or placement that will be focused on the detail, to create something tangible. Ideally, they're good with their hands, and they are the ones that can be behind a leader type person, and they do all the organizational and administrative work around that. They don't need to be at the front. They're very happy to put the grounding, the platform, the infrastructure of some project in place where they have a little eye on everything and they have the overview. And that's the kind of person where people say, without that person, nothing would work, nothing would run. So it's at the same time a very, very important position as well to have. So typically sixth house, they also get into health. They can be healers. They can be into nutrition, and they can be into, exercise routines. Everything that keeps the body in balance is very, very sort of a placement for sixth house ruler placement. Seventh house, you might be into like law, as I mentioned before briefly. It can be really a placement where people want to give others as a voice, like for example lawyers, or you go into organizations where there are groups that are not heard, and people that feel neglected, and you have that voice and you go out and you're able to put the focus on something that needs to be done in society or in groups and so on and so on. It's also very much a profession of consultancy where you sit one-on-one and help somebody, like a coach or like psychologist, for example, if there's some Scorpio, Pluto elements in here. And it can also be like you're good at having a business partner. Some people want to do it alone because they say, I want to do it my way. I don't want to be in, yeah, I don't want to have somebody else's telling me what to do. But if you have your chart ruler on the 7th house, you might be very inclined to want to start business with somebody. So I've seen that work really, really well, where somebody was a coach, speaker, went out to companies, and the other person was really good at selling them and drumming up the business and getting the appointments in, because they were really good at the marketing side. So that kind of business where you know that you're good at something, but you also know you're not good at everything, and you need a partner to, bring that successful concept out to the world. So if you have your chart ruler on the 8th house, this could be that you get involved in something occult, something spiritual, and also something to do with sexuality or shared resources. You can get into banking. Where you handle other people's money and you make other people's money grow. And also the 8th house, of course, represent a bit the sexuality. And sometimes I've seen people becoming a therapist, helping other people to connect in a different way. And so the 8th house can also be the house that's very interested in like the hidden, the things that we are not seeing. For example, I've seen private detectives or police people getting into this kind of job where they are finding the criminals and bringing them to justice. So there is this investigative work where they uncover something that is hidden for other people. So that's a very 8th house kind of drive to go in that direction. So if you have the 9th house, the ruler of your ascending sign in the 9th house, you might be inclined, first of all, to want to travel. This is where you live, for example. You live when you travel. This is where you expand your horizon. This is where you learn new things about yourself and different cultures. And it gives you a new perspective of yourself as well, which is, most people love to travel, but somebody with a strong 9th house, they will have, it becomes even more important. It's kind of very much ingrained in who they are. They need to move from A to B. They need to see different things. And I've seen people with this placement where all they do is saving up for the next trip. They get back and they get into work and then they save up enough so they can go on the next trip. But that's all they want to do. And they have a different day job. But sometimes your job is giving you that opportunity. Maybe you're a flight attendant or you're a pilot, or you are somebody who work in a travel agency or something. So you are involved with different countries, different cultures, and so on and so on. And also 9th house is typically a house that also rules law and publishing. So maybe if you have your chart ruler here, you want to self-publish something, or you are very interested in working in a publishing house or something. The 10th house, if you have your ascending ruler in the 10th house, this is typically a sign that wants to be in charge. They want to do something where they set the strategy, they set the goals, and other people follow them. So it could be business owners, small business owners. And if you think about this is a placement where there's enormous inner drive to succeed, to want to show a tangible result, either financially or by recognition in the world, that other people say, wow, this is successful, this is something to be proud of. This is very much a drive if you have your ascending sign in the 10th house. If you have your ascending sign ruler in the 11th house, you might be really involved with groups and communities. So I have example of somebody who were involved with helping a school for girls if in Afghanistan, and she had a completely different day job, but this was really her big passion. And if you ask her, what are you most proud of in your life, she would say that. So that combined this working towards a humanistic goal, which is very much 11th house, and something for humanity, something for bettering the condition for other people, and doing it in a group. She was not alone. It was a group that was working towards this goal. They were asking for sponsorships and so on, and that's how they were driving this project. And it gave her immense pride and joy to be involved with that. 11th house is also social media, and it's getting yourself out there on a platform where you connect with others through a screen, like I do. And often it's really something, it might not be your day job, but it might be that you feel that what gives you meaning in life is really to join a group that has the same values. It could be political, it could be religious, it could be anything where you feel, let's say you're into taking care of the planet, you might join a group there where this is the goals you're working towards. Maybe you work with investment side, finding people who are interested, like, for example, philanthropy. It could be a typical way of really living up that 11th house ruler. And finally, we come to the 12th house. So if your ruler is in the 12th house, you might work, to help heal. I mean, you might be in hospital, you might be working on more the mental health side, whereas the 6th house was more the physical body, the day-to-day nurturing, the exercise and so on. The 12th house, it represents more our mental health, our inner emotional health. So I've seen that house where people become healers, different way of untraditional ways, working with more the inner, the soul, the emotional, the things you don't see necessarily, but where there is a bigger connection. I've seen that shamanism here, for example, people working with tarot cards or whatever it might be, that you know that you're part of something bigger. And what gives you life real meaning is to feel go into areas where you connect with that, what is bigger, that spirituality, what it might be. And again, this is also very much to do with healing. It's a very empathetic placement because you draw in of that 12th house of humanity, empathy, and understanding, and being able to connect with other people's suffering in order to want to heal and to help them. It's also very creative placement. Depending what else is going on in your chart. It might also be, I see artists, people, dancers, people who have a wordless expression as something they really, really enjoying, and they feel compelled to do because it makes them come alive. And this is the whole point. When you feel you might be in a deadbeat job or it's not giving you what makes you feel good going into work. If you have that dreadful feeling on a Monday, I'm in the wrong job, even though it looks good on paper, and I have a job that people think, oh my God, I would kill for your job. But for you, it's not the right one. I really suggest go and look at your chart ruler and see what it's doing. Look at your ascending sign to see what the element is saying. Do you need active job? Do you need to communicate? Do you need to feel? Do you need to think? Do you need to do? And that will be your first clue. And then look at that ruler planet. That will already also embody some of the qualities that will lead you in the right direction. And then, of course, the house will be where it all plays out. So I hope this was helpful, and let me know in the question below or the comments below that are you in the right job or are you in the wrong job? And based on your chart, what would you like to be doing? So I would absolutely love to hear from you. And this is super interesting. And I think for many people, we might do different career things throughout our life, or different job things, but you can always, I think, trace it back to the ascendant ruler when you find your real joy. So speak to you soon. See you soon. Thank you for listening. Take care.